Have you ever felt like your children no longer respect you, brushing off your advice, or treating you like you're just in the way? That quiet sting, that moment when you realize the years of love, sacrifice, and late nights you poured into raising them seem forgotten. It hurts. You're not alone, and you don't have to stay stuck in that pain. In this video, we're diving deep into 6 powerful shifts that can transform how your children see you, not as someone to overlook, but as a presence they admire, respect, and cherish. Why watch until the end? First, you'll uncover simple, practical changes that don't require arguments or guilt trips. Just quiet strength that speaks louder than words. Second, these aren't just tips. They're truths drawn from real stories, like parents who regained their dignity and rebuilt stronger bonds with their kids. Third, you'll learn how to reclaim your place in their lives without chasing approval or sacrificing your self-worth. Plus, we'll share insights to help you build a vibrant life that inspires respect naturally. If you've ever felt invisible or undervalued, this video is your guide to being seen again. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's walk this journey together. Leave a comment with, "It's time they respect me again," and let's start reclaiming your worth today. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Action 1. Don't argue, lead by example. When your children start dismissing your opinions, cutting you off mid-sentence, or responding to your words with condescension, your heart aches. You've poured years into raising them, nurturing them, and guiding them with love and care, so how could they not see and appreciate that? The instinct, the emotional fire that rises within you, is to push back, to assert your place, to make them understand just how much you've given. Maybe you want to raise your voice just enough so they hear the depth of your sacrifices, to remind them of the countless nights you stayed awake, the challenges you overcame, all for them. But here's something I've learned the hard way that might save you years of pain and regret. Arguing doesn't bring back respect. It only buries it deeper. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time someone truly respected you because you fought for it? When was the last time raising your voice made someone see your worth and honor it? Respect isn't something you can demand through shouting or emotional warfare. It isn't earned by forcing someone to listen to your history or listing every sacrifice you've made. Respect is quietly earned, without words, through the way you hold yourself in the face of disrespect, especially when those closest to you, the ones you've loved most, seem to test your patience to its breaking point. When you meet disrespect with anger, you're not just standing your ground, you're letting them know that they've gotten under your skin. They see it, and they sense it. By reacting, you give away the power you've spent a lifetime building. It's like giving them the very thing you're trying to protect. I'll never forget a man named Frank. He was a teacher for over 30 years, respected, admired, and a man who commanded the attention of any room he entered. Yet, in his own home, it was a different story. His adult children would dismiss his advice, talk over him, and sometimes even smirk when he tried to offer any correction or wisdom. At first, Frank did what so many parents do. He fought back. He argued. He tried to reason with them, to assert his authority, to remind them of his years of experience and the love he had shown them. But the more he tried, the more distant and dismissive they became. It was heartbreaking. Until one day, Frank made a decision, a quiet, profound shift. He stopped arguing. He listened, not out of obligation, but with the depth of intention and understanding that only comes with age. He spoke less, but when he did, his words carried an unshakable calm confidence and a wisdom that could not be ignored. Frank no longer needed to prove anything. He wasn't chasing after their respect, he was living it. He became a man who had nothing to prove and everything to offer. And slowly, his children began to notice. They didn't listen because he demanded it. They listened because he became someone they couldn't help but respect. His silence spoke volumes. His quiet strength was more powerful than any argument he could have ever made. If your children are not respecting you, stop chasing after their attention. You don't have to force them to see your worth. Show them, through your example, what self-respect looks like. Maintain your dignity, even when they test your limits. Speak with calm certainty, knowing that your words don't need to be loud to be heard. Let your presence, steady, composed, unshakable, do the talking. And above all, never lower yourself to their level. When you carry yourself with quiet strength, they will feel it. They won't be able to ignore it. Slowly, they will begin to follow your lead, not because you force them to, but because they want to. Action 2. Stop giving without appreciation. One of the quickest ways to lose the respect you deserve, often without even realizing it, is to keep giving to those who no longer appreciate what you offer. As parents, we often fall into this trap, out of love, out of habit, and out of the deep, almost instinctual need to always be there for our children. We pour our time, our energy, our emotional and physical support into them, bending ourselves in ways we never thought possible. We sacrifice day after day, often with no acknowledgement, no thank you, and worse still, we're met with complaints, demands, or even just blank indifference. But let's be honest here, no one ever tells you this truth outright. When you keep giving without receiving the respect or appreciation you deserve, you're not creating closeness. You're fostering a sense of entitlement. Your kindness, which should be celebrated, becomes invisible. Your sacrifices become nothing more than an expectation, something people think they are owed, rather than a beautiful, selfless offering. And when you finally stop, when you set healthy boundaries and decide to give less, they don't feel gratitude. No, they feel inconvenienced. They may even feel frustrated that they can no longer take advantage of your endless giving. I'm reminded of a man named George, a man with a heart as vast as the ocean and a patience that knew no bounds. He was the kind of father who would do anything for his children. Did they need financial help? Without hesitation, George would hand over his last dime. They were moving. He'd clear his entire schedule and show up, ready to carry boxes and lend a hand. They wanted a last-minute change to their plans. He would rearrange his entire life just to accommodate them. He truly believed that giving, no matter the cost, was the ultimate expression of love. But, as so often happens, over time, something began to change. The gratitude slowly faded. The thank yous became less frequent. And George's children began to treat his help as if it were a right, something they simply deserved. Then, as George got older and found himself in need of help, just a little help from the very children he had given so much to, he realized, too late, that they were too busy. The crushing weight of that realization broke him. But here's the twist. It also awakened something in him. Something powerful, something transformative. George made the quiet decision to stop giving so freely. He stopped offering his help before being asked. He stopped rearranging his life for people who didn't appreciate it. And most importantly, he learned how to say no when it didn't feel right. At first, his children were stunned. They didn't understand why their once dependable father had changed. They were upset. But soon, they began to see the shift. They started to appreciate the moments they spent with him more. They started valuing his time. Why? Because George's generosity was no longer something they could take for granted. His kindness wasn't endless, nor was it an automatic response. It was a gift, a precious gift. And gifts are never guaranteed. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. Now, if you've ever felt like your kindness is being consumed but not cherished, like you're constantly giving and yet your efforts go unnoticed, it's time to stop. It's time to pause and reflect. Ask yourself honestly, am I giving more than I should? And even more importantly, what would happen if I stopped giving so much, just for a while? When you begin to teach others that your time, your love, your support, your very energy, must be earned through respect, something beautiful happens. They start treating you, and themselves, differently. The cycle of taking for granted becomes broken, and in its place, a deeper understanding grows. It's in this space, this vital space of respect and self-awareness, that relationships can truly flourish. So, if this message resonates with you, if you felt this burden and know deep down that it's time to make a change, don't keep it to yourself. There's someone in your life, a parent, a grandparent, maybe a friend, who needs to hear this message too. Share this video with them. It might just be the wake-up call they've been waiting for, the one they never knew they needed. Let's keep going and continue to honor our worth in all relationships. Action 3. Build a life outside of them. One of the most powerful and transformative ways to regain the respect of your children, without having to beg for it, is by showing them that your happiness, your sense of purpose, and your joy in life do not hinge solely on their attention or approval. As parents, we naturally dedicate ourselves to the well-being of our children. We prioritize their needs above all else, we adapt our daily schedules to fit their lives, and, in so many ways, we define ourselves by how well we support and nurture them. But here's the catch. Over time, something shifts, something quiet, subtle, but profoundly impactful. If we're not careful, the love and care we give so unconditionally can leave us feeling drained, hollow, and forgotten. When you've spent years, even decades, putting them first, they can start seeing you not as a full, complex person, but as a mere extension of their needs. And that's when the connection begins to weaken. The truth is, people, your children included, respect those who have their own lives. They value those who walk to their rhythm, who have passions that don't revolve around them. When your children sense that your world turns only when they call, when they visit, or when they give you attention, they may start pulling away. Not because they don't love you, but because the pressure to be your entire world can be overwhelming. Even love, in its purest form, can feel stifling when it carries the weight of someone else's entire existence. I'll never forget a woman named Eleanor, a widow in her late 70s, whose story deeply touched me. After the death of her husband, Eleanor's world fell apart. Her entire sense of self, her entire reason for getting up every day, vanished. With no one else to lean on, she turned desperately to her grown children. She called them often, offered unsolicited advice, tried to stay involved in their lives in any way she could, hoping that maybe, just maybe, they would fill the space that grief had left in her heart. But what happened next was heartbreaking. The more she reached out, the more distant they became. The phone calls grew shorter. Visits were less frequent. And despite her best efforts, Eleanor found herself sinking deeper into loneliness and emotional isolation. But then, Eleanor made a decision that changed everything. She decided to stop waiting. She joined a local book club. She began traveling with her old friends, reconnecting with people who had once been a part of her life. She volunteered at the senior center down the street. She even rediscovered her love for gardening, something that had brought her so much joy in the past. Slowly, she rebuilt her world, not one that revolved around her children or her grief, but one that was centered on her happiness, growth, and purpose. And here's the incredible part. As Eleanor began to reclaim her own life, her children began to notice. They reached out more. They were curious about her new activities, they admired her newfound independence, and for the first time in years, they didn't just love her as a mother, they respected her as a person. She wasn't just the woman who had once given everything for them. She had become someone who was living life on her terms, and that commanded admiration. Now, I want you to ask yourself a question, one that might be uncomfortable to face. Do your children see you as someone with a rich, fulfilling life, full of passion and purpose? Or do they see you as someone who is just waiting for the next phone call, the next visit, or the next sign that you still matter. Because I promise you this, the moment you start truly living, not just existing, they will begin to see you differently. They'll start valuing your time, respecting your boundaries, and recognizing your strength. Most importantly, they'll finally respect the life you've built for yourself, independent of them. If reading this has sparked something in you, if you're nodding along because it resonates deeply with your own life, then I'd love to hear from you. How are you planning to build a life outside of your children's expectations? What steps are you taking to reclaim your happiness and sense of self? Let's start the conversation and inspire one another to live with the independence and respect we all deserve. Action 4. Withdraw your emotional dependence. As we grow older, one of the most difficult yet necessary truths we must face is the realization that we cannot, and should not, depend on our children to fulfill our emotional needs. It's a harsh pill to swallow, especially when we've spent years nurturing them, loving them, and giving them all that we had. Yes, we love them more than anything, and of course, we desire their love, care, and respect in return. But if we're honest with ourselves, we must come to terms with the fact that relying on them to make us feel whole, to provide our sense of value, only sets the stage for emotional imbalance. The truth is simple, though hard to accept. People, including your children, naturally respect those who can stand on their own emotionally. It's a fundamental human truth. When you are constantly seeking their reassurance, craving their attention, or needing their validation, it doesn't build closeness, it creates pressure. And that pressure, over time, becomes too much for them to bear. They feel responsible for your happiness, and instead of drawing them closer to you, it pushes them away. I've seen it happen too many times. Parents unknowingly place a heavy burden on their children by depending on them emotionally. It's not that they don't love you, it's that it begins to feel like an obligation. The more you reach out, the more they retreat. What should have been an expression of love and care starts to feel like a chain they are tied to, an expectation rather than a relationship built on mutual respect. I remember meeting a woman named Helen, who perfectly embodied this dynamic. Helen was a loving, gentle mother who had always put her children first, who would have given everything for them without a second thought. She loved them fiercely, with a heart wide open. But as time passed, and her children grew older, creating their own lives, Helen found herself increasingly isolated. She would sit by the phone, waiting for it to ring, praying for a call from one of them. But when those calls didn't come, she would pick up the phone and call them herself, sometimes multiple times a week, telling them how much she missed them and how quiet the house had become without their laughter. Her intentions were pure, coming from a place of deep love, but eventually, something shifted. Her children, who once cherished her calls, began to avoid them. What had once felt like love now began to feel like guilt, obligation, even a burden. And Helen, caught in this cycle, felt more and more desperate for a connection that just wasn't coming. But then, something incredible happened. Helen made a choice, one that was life-changing. She stopped waiting. She stopped calling first. She turned her energy inward. Helen started to focus on herself. She joined a knitting circle. She began taking morning walks with neighbors. She signed up for that painting class she had always wanted to try but had never found the time for. She found joy in her own company, created her own routines, and started filling her life with things that made her happy. Not because she was trying to get something from her children, but because she was learning to give that joy to herself. And slowly, very slowly, something miraculous happened. Her children started calling more often. They reached out not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They could hear the difference in her voice, the lightness, the energy, the newfound vitality that came from her self-sufficiency. They began to admire her strength, her ability to create a life for herself, to build something beautiful on her terms. And in that process, they started to see her differently. They didn't see her as someone waiting for their affection, but as someone strong enough to create her happiness. And with that respect came a deeper love, a love based on mutual respect, not obligation. This lesson isn't just for Helen. It's for anyone who feels that emotional gap with their children, who feels their hearts heavy with unmet needs. If you're struggling with this, if you're caught in the cycle of waiting for a call that never comes, I want you to hear this. The more emotionally independent you become, the more respect you will earn, not only from your children but from yourself. You deserve to stand strong, to create your joy, and to be admired for the life you've built, not just the love you receive. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. If this resonates with you, or if you know someone who's going through this struggle, please share this message. One small shift in perspective can change everything. It can change the way we approach aging, the way we view ourselves, and most importantly, how we interact with those we love. Never underestimate the power of emotional independence in creating lasting love and respect. Action 5. Stop chasing their approval. As parents grow older, there's a deeply human tendency that often goes unnoticed: the relentless pursuit of approval from our children. It's like a silent, invisible force that can creep into every interaction, subtly shaping the way we behave and respond. You begin to rearrange your life to fit theirs. You agree to things that go against your very instincts, saying yes when your heart is screaming no, nodding along when your voice is begging to be heard. You sacrifice your own needs, telling yourself that it's for their sake, hoping that one day they'll see just how much you care and start appreciating you more. But here's a painful truth I've come to understand over the years. The more you chase their approval, the more you inadvertently lose their respect. It's not that they're ungrateful. It's that, in the complex dance of human relationships, respect doesn't thrive when it's constantly begged for. When you give without boundaries, when you shrink yourself just to maintain peace, you communicate a message that your feelings, your needs, and your worth come second. Respect isn't earned through silent sacrifice or self-suppression. It's earned through self-respect. I think of a woman I once knew, Margaret. She was vibrant, confident, and fiercely independent in her younger years, a woman who knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to voice it. But as time passed, she began to change. She began to let her adult children take the reins of her life. She canceled plans that were important to her just to fit into their schedule. She stopped offering her thoughts, even when her gut told her something wasn't right. And when her children, on occasion, spoke to her dismissively, she would say nothing. "I just want to keep the family together," she explained to me one day. Her intentions were pure, and I understood her desire for harmony, but her silence came at a great cost. Over time, her children stopped seeking her advice. They stopped asking for her perspective. In their eyes, she became always available, always agreeable, always ready to say yes, even when it meant sacrificing her happiness and well-being. Margaret believed she was avoiding conflict, but in truth, she was erasing herself from the very conversations that once mattered to her. If you're feeling like your children no longer respect you, I want you to hear this. The solution isn't to raise your voice, it's to raise your standards. Respect isn't something you beg for or demand. It's something you model by the way you treat yourself. Set boundaries. Speak your truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Say no when necessary, even if it causes a little friction. Because the moment you begin valuing yourself, truly valuing your needs, your time, and your opinions, others will have no choice but to follow suit. The power of respect starts with you. Action 6. Set boundaries and enforce them. One of the most common yet often overlooked reasons why children lose respect for their parents is the simple truth that, without meaning to, we allow it. Think about it. When you let your children speak to you with sarcasm, when you allow them to disregard your opinions, when they ignore your time or treat your feelings as though they're insignificant, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It simply means they've learned that this behavior is acceptable. And whether we realize it or not, the way people, especially family, treat us is often a reflection of what we allow. It's easy to dismiss this, thinking that setting boundaries creates unnecessary drama. We might fear that establishing limits will lead to conflicts, or even worse, sever ties. But setting boundaries isn't about creating strife. It's not about walking away, starting a fight, or distancing yourself from your children. Instead, it's about establishing a clear, firm line that says, "This is how I expect to be treated." It's saying that you are worthy of kindness, respect, and consideration, and that those values are non-negotiable. But here's the catch: it only works if you follow through. Boundaries without action are just empty words. Let me tell you about a man named Robert, someone I'll never forget. Robert was a disciplined, strong businessman who ran his own company with unwavering authority and precision. He was used to respect, accountability, and structure. Yet when it came to his adult children, he became a shadow of his former self, hesitant, passive, and often silent. His kids would interrupt him mid-sentence, roll their eyes when he shared his opinions, and even criticize his choices regarding his retirement years. For the longest time, Robert stayed silent, telling himself it wasn't worth the conflict, that peace was more important. But in doing so, he was sacrificing his dignity without even realizing it. Over time, something shifted within Robert. He came to a powerful realization. Every time he swallowed his words, every time he allowed their disrespect, he was silently teaching them that it was okay to disregard him. So, he made a change, a profound one. The next time his son cut him off mid-conversation, Robert didn't raise his voice. He simply said, "I'll continue when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his perspective, he responded calmly, "You don't need to agree with me, but you will speak to me with respect." If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. But Robert didn't stop there. When their behavior didn't improve, he took it a step further. He told them, without anger or resentment, that if they couldn't treat him with basic decency, he wouldn't be spending time with them. At first, they resisted. They pushed back, reluctant to accept the shift. But eventually, they began to listen, not because he forced them to, but because he stood firmly in his self-worth. He taught them, without yelling or pleading, that respect wasn't a given, it was the price of his presence. And that lesson, that quiet yet powerful stand, made all the difference. If your children aren't treating you the way you deserve, it's time to stop asking yourself why and start asking what you're allowing. The truth is, if you don't set the rules for how you want to be treated, no one else will. Respect starts where self-respect is enforced. Here's the truth I want you to take away. Respect from your children isn't something you can force or demand. It's something you quietly earn through the way you carry yourself, the way you honor your boundaries, and the way you choose to live with purpose. If you've been feeling dismissed, overlooked, or even hurt by how your children treat you, don't waste another day trying to fix it with anger or guilt. Instead, shift your approach. Stop seeking their approval, because the moment you no longer need it, the moment you stand in your strength, that's when they will start offering it freely. Lead with quiet strength, because dignity speaks louder than words ever could. Let go of emotional dependence. When you no longer rely on them to make you feel whole, they will begin to see you as someone solid, grounded, and complete. Set firm boundaries and enforce them with grace. People will treat you only as well as you require them to. Stop giving endlessly without appreciation, because generosity loses its magic when it's not respected. And above all, build a rich, meaningful life that stands apart from theirs, because people are drawn to those who have their light, their joy, and their reasons to wake up every single day with purpose and passion. Remember, you deserve respect. And when you set boundaries and enforce them, you are telling yourself, and the world, that you will not settle for anything less. This is your life, your journey, and your worth. It's time to protect it fiercely. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and reflect on the importance of setting boundaries in your relationships. It's not always easy, but as we've discussed, it's essential for earning the respect you deserve and creating healthier dynamics with your children, loved ones, and even yourself. So, what have you learned so far? Is there one specific boundary you're ready to set today? Or perhaps one lesson that resonated with you deeply, and you're ready to start practicing it in your life. I'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to share in the comments below one thing you've learned from this video and how you plan to implement it moving forward. Your insight could inspire someone else who's struggling with the same challenges. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please leave your comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Let's keep the conversation going and continue empowering ourselves and others to lead lives filled with respect, purpose, and meaningful connections. Thank you again, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts.